I'm weird. The Fulweilers are weird. I mean, yeah, my husband has a banana suit costume, and he doesn't just wear it on Halloween.
No.
And I'm not, like, implying anything. I'll like, he'll wear it
to bed.
Shut up! Everyone in this room is fired. It's not what I was... Sorry. Why don't I get booked on CNN anymore? Welcome to episode 39 of the new and improved This Is Jen show, and this one is going to be a doozy. This one is going to be one for the ages, I assure you of that. We have Shady Ray producing.
Hello.
Shady, so delighted you're part of the improved part, the new and improved part. So we've got Shady producing, and you can also get bonus episodes of this fine program that I do only for Patreon subscribers. I'm very active in my Patreon community, and I do bonus episodes over there. So you need to get in on that. Patreon.com/thisisjen. But maybe wait until you hear what I'm about to say, because you might decide to unfollow me across all platforms and never have any association with me again. So maybe don't join the Patreon until you hear about today's subject, my take on today's subject. Amy Coney Barrett is being nominated to the Supreme Court. And do you have any idea how long I have been waiting for this moment? And I don't mean about politics. I don't mean about social change. Do you know how long I have been waiting for weird Catholicism to be discussed on the national stage? These are my people. And it is suddenly covenant communities and Catholics who are too religious and too into it. This is now being discussed on a national stage. And I have been waiting my entire career for this. For those of you who are less familiar with me, I am queen. I am queen of the weird Catholics. Am I not, Shady?
Bow down.
I am. I'm queen of the weird Catholics. And for people who don't know, look. I have earned this title. Can people see that? Okay, so. For those of you listening on audio only, you might want to look this one up on YouTube. I actually have a crown and a scepter. I have earned my spot as queen of the weird Catholics. I've been on all the weird Catholic podcasts. I've done speeches at weird Catholic events. I have a weird Catholic book. I've been in Catholic media forever. I have earned this spot. And look, what I can't figure out is why am I not getting booked on media to be a commentator on this? I have no ideas. I can't figure out. I'm so professional.
Yeah, no,
I'm so classy.
Really
this podcast is a triumph. This podcast is nothing but one amazing take after the other.
Fire takes.
Why am I not getting? But I've been on CNN. I've been on CNN International. I've been on Fox News. Why are they not blowing me up? I could even wear this crown. I could bring my scepter. Fox News. I am making this offer to you right now. If you have me be a commentator on Amy Barrett and the weird Catholics, I'll bring this scepter to the broadcast. It's because I think it adds legitimacy.
Otherwise, you know what? Off with their heads.
Right. In whose heads? The Catholics or the non-Catholics?
I don't know. Well,
whoever. We can work out the details.
Yeah.
I will bring my scepter to any media broadcast that book me, because I just feel like it just makes me look really legitimate and professional and like I know what I'm talking about. So Amy Barrett is part of a covenant community called People of Praise, and everyone's talking about this, and I'm like, oh, finally there is something in the national stage that I know about. I know people who are members of Catholic covenant communities. So I can tell anyone anything they need to know about this, because I occasionally text with like 5 people who are members of covenant communities. So for those of you who are wondering about this, let's start. First things first. Yeah, they are kind of weird. So, I say I have friends in Catholic covenant communities. I should say had after this episode airs. They're a little weird. They are. And I'm not saying that actually as a bad thing. That I'm weird. The Fulweilers are weird. I mean, my husband has a banana suit costume, and he doesn't just wear it on Halloween.
No.
And I'm not, implying anything. I'll he'll wear it
To bed.
Shut up! Everyone in this room is fired. It's not what I was...
Sorry.
Why don't I get booked on CNN anymore? I can't figure this out. You know what? I'm scrapping that whole bit. And everyone can just, hey, I have a scepter. Everyone has to be professional on this. I'm just saying that I'm not saying that being weird is a bad thing, but that covenant communities, they are a little weird. And you know what's funny is now I'm going to have enemies of people who are in covenant communities. So I'll get a brick through my window and it'll be screw you, Jen. Signed, Angels of Peace Community, covenant community. We're going to get you. So that'll be fun. I've been trying to add some variety to my enemies. So let's add covenant community people to that. They're a little weird. And one of the things with covenant communities is it kind of reminds me of socialism in some ways, in the sense that what you do with your money is not entirely up to you, and that you have all these obligations to your community. And, for people who didn't like Bernie, I think they could have taken him down very quickly. Instead of being Bernie's a socialist, just say Bernie wants everyone to join a covenant community. Bernie is trying to turn the United States into a covenant community. And that you guys could have gotten rid of him much more quickly. So Amy Coney Barrett is a member of People of Praise, this community. And so while everyone is fighting about Roe versus Wade, about her politics, about her Catholic identity, I feel like we are missing a major opportunity here. People across religions, people across all boundaries should come together, women anyway, and we should say, look, we're big fans of Amy Coney Barrett because she somehow found a way to get out of all of the obligations that her covenant community undoubtedly tried to put on her. This is one of the things, when I've talked to people who are actually members of these kinds of communities, one of the things they always talk about is that you have obligations to your community. You've got to be, I say this like I'm being dismissive. Let me use a more positive tone here. You have to be the praise leader for a month, and maybe you teach at the community school for a little while, and you run the Covenant Community Fundraising Bake Sale. Now, if you read up on this woman and you see what she has accomplished judicially, you see what she has accomplished in her legal career, there is no way that this woman was putting in a whole bunch of hours doing volunteer work at her covenant community. That, one thing we know for sure is that was not happening, at least to the level that a lot of my friends who are in covenant communities, former friends after this take, it's a lot. They really get on your calendar. And so what I want to know, as a parent who is constantly dodging my volunteer obligations, I want to know how she did it. And I think that we as women, we as mothers of all backgrounds, can really come together on this one. Because I've tried,
How many sick days can you get?
No, because they don't. No, it doesn't even work like that. Because when my kids went to preschool, because we homeschool a lot of our kids, but they did go to preschool, and so the teachers it's I'm paying the preschool, but they are trying to put things on my calendar. And it's no. If the money is flowing this way, then the putting of things on calendars also flows this way. If you want to put things on my calendar, then you pay me. That's how the world works. So they'd stop me in the hall And they'd be like, Jen, it's field day on Wednesday. And they'd be, Jen, we just, it's field day. We need some people. I'd be like, no hablo inglés. They'd be like chasing me down. I'd be like, I said no hablo inglés. I've done everything to get out of it, and I usually fail. And so I want to know what Amy Barrett did to get out of her covenant community obligations. And I think that that's something that could unite us all. Because there's a lot of inconsistency with women who say they're pro-women, they're pro-mothers, but then when it comes to this judge, they're just trashing her left and right all the time. And we need to watch out for that as women. And I will say, as women who are on my side of things, when we see women who are not in the weird Catholic zone, who advocate for things that we don't believe in, we should make sure not to wholly demonize them and say, well, this person disagrees with me politically, they disagree with me religiously, and therefore everything about them is bad. There's nothing redeeming. We would have a much more peaceful society if people could say, people who disagree with her religiously and politically would just say, there's a lot to admire about her as a mother. There's a lot to admire about a woman who can live in a covenant community and somehow shake all these people off so that she can have this insane career and raise 6 kids. Let's try to learn from each other. And I try to practice this in my personal life. I follow people on social media who, we don't agree on anything. Nothing. We have nothing in common. And I try to practice saying, okay, I disagree with this person on everything, but I really admire what they're doing as a mother. Or I really admire what this guy is doing as an attorney working for the poor, something like that. We would live in a better place, in a better society, if we could all do that. Now, if I might take off this hat for 1 second, mainly because I think it's messing up my hair, and this podcast kind of revolves around my hair.
True.
Even though, luckily, we had a hair issue in the last episode, but luckily I am still suppressed in the YouTube algorithm, so only 112 people saw it. So I was like, you know what? God brings good out of everything. My hair in episode 38, I had this piece of hair that was wildly, horizontal to my face, just sticking straight out. Shady couldn't see it because she sits at a different angle from me. And it was it was a complete disaster. But everyone I know who subscribes to the channel, which is everyone, since I made it clear that I'm no longer friends with people if they don't subscribe to my channel. They were saying it didn't show up. So nobody saw it. So I'm blessed. I'm just blessed. Everything is going really well.
Blessed.
Hashtag blessed. Here's my biggest issue with what's going on with all of the controversy surrounding Amy Coney Barrett. And you've seen this with every Supreme Court nomination. We do this every time. People are acting like we are electing a pharaoh. And now I'm about to get into a bit of constitutional law here. And I know this is why you follow this podcast. When you think, what is the truth about the Constitution vis-a-vis the laws of this country and how the judicial branch works, you think Jen Fulwiler is who I turn to. That, not Adrian Vermeule. Why would I hear what he has to say about Harvard law, constitutional law professor? No, it's Jen. It's Jen. Do you not didn't you see her hat? That's who I'm going to listen to, is the woman who has a hat like that. She knows about everything. Constitutional law. Also, what you were probably just saying to your friend, what does Jen Fulwiler think about the Federalist Papers? Your friends, Shady, probably.
Oh, yeah. They ask me that all the time.
Yeah. So it's good. It's good that I'm getting into this. I bring this up for a reason, though. We're all getting very stressed out. We're all getting very anxious about the state of our country. And I think it relates to this. And I think everyone on all sides of the issue is making a key mistake that is going to end with all of us spending a measurable percentage of our time popping Xanax and washing it down with vodka that we are drinking straight from the bottle. Yep. And so I'm speaking to everyone. I'm not speaking to one side or the other. One of the things you see with everyone getting so wound up about these Supreme Court nominees is that nobody cares about what the Constitution says anymore. When I talk to people about this, by which I mean like text and Instagram DMs, this is not like me having aged wine in a library having philosophical conversations. It's like Catholic Mom 87, like DMing. Nothing sophisticated going on here. But when I talk to people about this, so often, all of us, and I do this too, we forget that the Supreme Court's job is to just take the document that's already there and interpret it. Like other people have said, this is not my analogy, but other people have said the Supreme Court's job is to call balls and strikes, is to be umpires, basically. And that would be so weird if you were like, I just want to get an umpire who's a huge fan of the Mets, because I'm a Mets fan. I want an umpire who's just really into that team. Well, it shows that you are not expecting that umpire to follow the rules of the game if you care which side he roots for more than you care if he is a fair umpire who follows the rules. In a perfect world, the way we'd all think of it is, I don't care about if the Supreme Court justice's ideology matches mine as much as I care about them doing their job. We have lost that 100%, and both sides, regardless of whether you love Amy Coney Barrett's personal beliefs or you hate them, both sides have lost this. So on the one hand, if you're on the side, and I live in Austin, I have friends who are in this category, that you wish the Constitution were, what you wish, the way you wish this document was created, is that women in vagina hats gathered together and created a founding document for this country that was just a transcription of spoken word poetry about body positivity. And I'm not hating on that. To be honest, like, would have been a step up from owning slaves. I mean, these aren't all bad ideas. But if that's what you want, if that's the Constitution that you wish, if that's the Constitution that you wish had been created, be honest about that. Be honest that the document we currently have isn't the one. It's not doing it for you. And you want a new one that says different things. Fine, it's a free country. That's what's great about this country. We can advocate for different ideas. You can see if you can get some people on board with that. The problem we get into is when we all start making things up about what that document actually says and actually is. And I say again, both sides are doing this. I know people that their perfect vision of the Constitution would be, we go down to the National Archives, where the Constitution is stored, with a shredder. And we just get rid of what is there, and we create a new Constitution by copying and pasting the About section of Michael Voris's website. And that's the new Constitution. We take the statement of faith from Church Militant, and we just paste it. And these are now the laws that govern this country.
All done. You
have to go to Mass, daily Mass, every day. You have to receive communion on your knees, on your tongue, from a priest who has never had a gay thought in his whole life. And if you don't, and if you violate this even once, we are going to call the Dominicans, Eastern Province. I know those guys. You can count on them. And they're going to usher in a new Inquisition where if you don't follow these rules perfectly, they'll burst down the door to your house and you will be tied up and forced to watch 5 straight hours of the Church Militant podcast for every infraction. So I know people like that's for them. I have not only friends but fans who just heard that and they're like, Jen, don't tease me with such utopian visions. What a beautiful world. Would that we could live in that world. Wouldn't that be amazing? But again, and if you want to advocate for that, fine. Like I could give you some names and numbers of people who would help you get in on that vision. But again, it's so important for us all to remember that is not the Constitution that we currently have. And Supreme Court justices, their jobs are to interpret that document. And if we want to change it, if we want to amend it, if we want to shred it and start over and have the whole thing created as a group project in a Reddit forum, fine. But go through the proper channels. Go through the traditional ways of amending and changing the foundational documents of this country. And this matters. This surprise foray of the This Is Jen podcast into constitutional law. Bet you didn't see that coming for this episode. The reason I wade precariously into this deep end is it's been a long time since I've seen people so stressed out about the political climate, about the social climate in our country. And I have friends, I was not just an atheist who became Catholic. I was raised atheist. The only religious people I knew were Wiccans. And they would do moon ceremonies. They'd go out into the woods like that. And those were the religious people I knew. And I was a loudmouth atheist. And I still have friends from those circles. And now I'm not just Catholic, but I'm in, you guys know where I am. I'm in with the weird Catholics. And so I have friends on all sides of these debates. And what I've seen in the past remember when Obama got elected and when, I don't need to run through the whole presidential history. The point is, there have been a lot of really contentious things, laws that have been passed, debates that have happened on the national scale. And what I've seen, having friends from all different sides of things, is generally there's a feeling of, okay, we're mad, we disagree with each other, but we can work it out because the systems that hold our democracy, or republic if you want to be technical, the systems that hold this country in place are strong. And so, yes, we can yell at each other. We can mute each other on Twitter. We can debate things. But this country does ultimately have a pretty good system for working through change in a way that infuriates the least number of people. It's not perfect by any means. Lots of people are still mad. But the channels hold. The channels work. And so imagine if you have these raging currents. I guess I can take this hat off again. Imagine if you have these raging currents of water that threaten to collide with one another, but they run through channels that keep it all orderly. Imagine if those channels start to crack. You're like, okay, what's going to happen if these? Oh, my hair's messed up. What's going to happen if these channels that have been bringing order and keeping us all from being swept away in a tidal wave of hot takes? What's going to happen if those channels erode and break down? And that's what I see with these Supreme Court debates. If you have a specific worldview that you would like to see put in place in this country, fine, great, but do it through the right channels, not by treating our Supreme Court justices as pharaohs. That you're like, man, if I could just get someone who agrees with me perfectly on every issue in the Supreme Court, they could just start making stuff up. And it would be amazing. They could say, I was looking here at the Constitution and it doesn't say that you have to follow Jen Fulweiler on Instagram upon penalty of death. It doesn't say that, but I think we all know what the Founding Fathers meant. I mean, if these guys saw the fire content that this woman was putting on Instagram, when they were thinking, let's found a country where the king can't mess with us and we can do our own thing, they were imagining a woman drinking alone on her pantry floor and live Instagramming it at 2:00 in the morning. I think we all know that. And so, look, this passage in the Constitution, it's what they were getting at. It's now a law. It's punishable by death not to follow Jen on Instagram. I mean, it would be a beautiful world. But by trying to make change that way, by treating our Supreme Court justices as God kings, we're starting chaos. Like, none of us, we don't want monarchy. Like, that, if there's one thing we can all agree on, we don't want monarchy. We wouldn't have fought the whole freaking war about it if that's what we wanted. You don't want a monarchy. Stop treating these Supreme Court justices as monarchs. Because I think it will help everyone relax. I think the reason that everyone is feeling so stressed out right now is you sense that our political systems that keep everyone sane are eroding, that everyone on both sides of the aisle is trying to usurp the system, to put their view of things in place. And I think that makes us all very nervous, because when the channels are gone, when the systems are gone, maybe your side wins temporarily. Maybe we do have a sort of virtual Catholic monarchy if we have enough. And I'm not saying the current justices are activist Catholic judges, but I know people who seem to kind of want that view. But okay, if we get rid of the current systems and channels, that could go against us one day too. So I bring this up because I think it will help everyone relax and calm down if we respect the system a little bit. And I didn't think that I would ever have a respect the system take. I am a 7th generation Texan. My husband is a 5th generation Texan. And if the salient thing about my people, like our people came to Texas when only the most insane, unhinged people came to Texas. The pitch of going to Texas when our ancestors came to Texas was basically, you will die a young, painful death. This place is an utter hellscape with constant little factions and wars going on in all these different areas. And so you will either be killed by violence or the oppressive, unfathomable heat or the snakes very, very quickly. But in your brief time in Texas before you die, you will be free. And that is how much our ancestors cared about being left alone by the government. I mean, we've always homeschooled. My husband unceremoniously yanked our first child out of kindergarten on a random Tuesday in November. I got a text saying we homeschool now. And it was deserved. Yeah, so that we didn't like some things that were going on with the school system. So I just want you to know who you're hearing from here. I am not normally a pro the system. Let's all listen to the man. Can we all just be obedient to the man? Right. That's not normally the take that you would hear on this podcast. So things are out of control when Jen Fulweiler has a let's just respect the man take. That's how bad things are. Speaking of people who don't respect the man, Shady, did you hear about? Okay, so there's a guy in France that.
Of course, it's France.
Look. When I relaunched this podcast, I didn't intend for it to be all anti-France all the time. I didn't, that wasn't.
It has worked out
and then I got in trouble because some people in my YouTube comments have French ancestry.
Oh, no.
And they were like, Jen, that statement you made where everything is France's fault, like that wasn't,
Well, you didn't mean everything. Get it together.
Well, did I not?
Maybe,
I mean.
maybe she did.
You know what it is? I'm just sick of Europeans have it all figured out takes. I can't handle one more. Do you know what they did in Sweden? Or actually, you know what? I'm doing this right now. Population of Sweden. Population of Sweden is 10 million. Let's do, for comparison, the whole population of Sweden, the whole ball of wax, is 10 million. The population of Texas is 30 million. Ooh. And that's one state. What's the population of, because I constantly have to hear how these people have it all figured out and we need to do, okay, how about this? The population of Denmark. And everyone's like the Danes are happy all the time. They know, the word Hygge should be pronounced Hygge, is actually Huga, because the Danish have to pronounce things weirdly. They need to use my American pronunciation for their words. So everyone's like, look at what Denmark did with COVID. Look at what Denmark, they're all so amazing there. They're so happy. Their population is 5 million. The population of one of the 50 states in our union is 30 million.
How could you even compare the two?
But people do it all the time. They're like,
So
Americans are so stupid. Why can't we just do what the Danish do? Because the Danish, it's like 4 guys in a tundra. And we have a real country.
They can share a biscuit.
So we can't do the same things that these guys do. It's just a different... So France is bad. Actually, my cousin is marrying a wonderful French girl. I will be going to France, I think, for the wedding. So I need to... This is the last time. Right? This is the last time I blame everything on France and I just say that all the problems are... and I didn't even intend to have this take. Okay. I mean, did France not kind of make me? Did they not?
Did they?
I mean, is it...
They're provoking
Is
you
it my
now.
fault or is it France's fault? Okay, so there's a guy, a school teacher, whose body, face, and tongue are covered in tattoos, and who has, get this, he had the whites of his eyes surgically turned black.
No.
Was trying to be a kindergarten teacher in France. Yeah,
No.
and he's upset. Well, maybe the French have something figured out because he did get fired. And so he's like really upset about this. His name is Sylvain Helaine. So Sylvain rolls up to your kid's kindergarten class. Like even his tongue
What was he thinking?
is tattooed.
How is that even a
And so, well, everyone's making it out like it's discrimination, that's his
No.
expression.
You're going to give
you know?
our kids nightmares. Relax, sir.
Yeah, and like, why kindergarten? Because if there's one thing we want from people who interact with elementary age kids, we want them to be the biggest conformists on the face of the planet, or at least look like it, right? Like
face tattoos.
Yeah, right. No, but like we want them to not think outside of the box. You know, like when my kids' preschool teachers, I wanted to believe that they have never had an outside of the box thought in their lives. Now, I know they had, but it's the charade.
Just in case.
The charade, not charade, it's the charade. I want to believe that these are the most conformist, just staying in their lane, not doing wild things. Because I don't, I'm dropping my kids off. They have exclusive access to my kids. I need you to be boring or at least pretend to be boring if that's the situation. And now I kind of wrestle with this because I try to be open-minded. There is a guy, have you ever heard of Enigma? Mm-mm. Okay, so he is a lot like this guy, except his tattoos have a little more cohesion. But so Enigma, I knew this guy, not well, but I knew him in my circles in Austin back in the day. So he had his tongue split surgically to be like a serpent tongue. He had little horns implanted. Like that's when you know you're committed to your mission.
I've seen that too.
He had horns implanted in his head. And I was goth at the time. And I was like, I'm not committed enough to being goth because like I haven't had anything
Horns
surgically.
or anything. I'm
just that's why I didn't need to paint my face white. That was already covered by my utterly
Nice and pale.
Yeah, the Irish utter lack of any sort of healthy color going on. But yeah, I was like, man, I am not committed. So his entire search for Enigma. Well, Enigma it'll just define the word. Search for Enigma Austin, maybe, I don't know. His whole body covered in tattoos of puzzle pieces. So that was kind of cool. Oh. But I mean, like over his eyes, over his face, literally his entire body, including his forked tongue, covered in puzzle pieces. And he was the nicest guy. Aww. I hung out with him a few times. And it's funny, I showed up to this party. I thought it was edgy because I was dressed as goth. I was doing my goth thing. I had a nose ring. And I was wearing plaid tights. Oh, yeah. And I was like, what are the people at this party going to even do with this level of nonconformity? They're going to be like, that's a girl who is she's bucking the system. She doesn't care. Mm-mm. She doesn't respect it. Look at those plaid tights.
Not a single
care.
care.
And then Enigma is
got
there.
Horns.
And I'm
You're like, oh, man.
Okay, all right.
You win.
Right. Yeah, it was like, you win. He was the nicest man. Really, really nice person. So I kind of struggle. I was like, what would I do if Sylvain, who went so far as to tattoo the whites of his eyes and make them black, is my kid's kindergarten teacher. Because I really try to be welcoming of all people. I really try to be open-minded. So I came up with a solution.
What?
I think what you got to do in these situations is fight fire with fire. Take the paradigm that they are operating from, in which there's no limit to self-expression, and it must all be accepted without limits. So I'd schedule a parent-teacher meeting, and I would show up dressed as the Kool-Aid Man, and I'd play it absolutely deadpan. I would just be like, okay, so
I don't see issues here.
Braden got a frowny face grade in circle time, but again, dressed as the Kool-Aid Man. So Braden got a frowny face in circle time, and I just want to talk about, I feel like we've been working with him on circle time. He knows his shapes and colors, and I just want to explore how we can have a more positive kindergarten community for Braden. But dressed as the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I told you, I can't believe I'm bringing this up again. My husband has a banana costume. Shut up! Shut up! He wears it outside of Halloween, meaning... Oh, everyone, you know what? I'm going back to a solo podcast. This was all a mistake to bring other people into this.
Oh my gosh.
To delete on this episode. Meaning, like, some friends have a coffee shop where they sell smoothies, and he's offered to wear his banana suit for that. So he went to Yale for this, like, to walk around just randomly in a banana suit. So I would show up to Sylvain's kindergarten class in the banana suit, again, not commenting on it at all, and in the banana suit, be like, so I want to talk to you about Charlotte Mason education. Are you incorporating the Charlotte Mason principles? And also, I believe that the Montessori method can be beneficial for young children. And if we could just strategize about how to incorporate more Montessori elements into this classroom, I just feel like we could have a more positive culture. And just make him sit there, and you can't comment on it because you tattooed your tongue.
Yeah.
I'm dressed as the Kool-Aid Man, but you can't comment on it because we have no limit to self-expression in this kindergarten classroom. You know what this comes from? Are you ready for me to do my Jen goes off the philosophical deep end thing?
Yes.
All right, it's been too long. It's been 5 minutes. So let's do a random philosophical tangent. You know where this comes from is the breakdown of communities in all of human history. Millions of years, the only life experience that humans have ever had. Like, if this is a timeline, audio listeners, I'm holding my hands about a foot apart. If this is a timeline of all of human history, the past century is like just this minuscule sliver right at the very end. And, we're designed to live as humans have lived for most of human history. Humans have always lived in cohesive communities that were basically one big extended family. I've mentioned before something I found very interesting when I interviewed some relatives before they passed away, female relatives, who they were born in, I want to say like 1900, or right around then. And at the time, I was a new mom, and I was so stressed out about, what should I do baby wearing? What is the method for getting babies to sleep through the night? And I was so lost. And so I was trying to interview them and say, well, in so many words, I was like, well, what parenting Reddit forum were you on to tell you how to live your entire life? I was so in this paradigm of like, just you read books and you have randos tell you how to raise your kids. And we were clearly missing each other. And these interviews weren't that solid because we were speaking two different languages about parenthood. What I realized later is they came from these cohesive cultures where they lived in these small towns where they had sisters and brothers and cousins and aunts and uncles. And, you'd go down to the little tiny town square. You were related to half the people there. The other half, you all knew that your brother or your cousin or someone was undoubtedly friends with these people. And so a lot of their, well, actually not a lot, all of their social mores, their ideas about how we should live and what's the meaning of life and what is too edgy. If a kid is going to rebel, what are the limits on that? That it's kind of fun but not too extreme. These kind of mores were all just handed to them by their family culture. And you even see this today in some places. A friend of mine comes from a small town in Sweden, and she said, like, if you go to the little market where everyone does their afternoon shopping in this little, Switzerland. I'm sorry, not Sweden, Switzerland. And if you go to this little Swiss town where she's from, everyone does their afternoon shopping at the market. You get fresh stuff, you walk home, and everyone knows everyone. And people at the market will absolutely just tell you how to raise your kids. They will tell you if they don't like the way you're dressing, if they think, she said people will be like, oh, so-and-so, oh, I see you've gotten fat. What have you been eating? And they feel, I know, right? But they feel like they can do that because it feels like it's one big family. So you can be up in people's business. And so here's what, believe it or not, this actually does connect to the idea of me dressing up like the Kool-Aid man to dialogue with my kids' teachers who tattooed the whites of his eyes black. This is all connected. In those, and I know this also because I lived in a small town in Texas for a while, a rural town. And one of the things that happens when you live in these really cohesive communities is the social rules are just set for you. Everyone just has the same idea about where the limits are. So if you're going to debate, how could a kindergarten teacher have a little personality, be a little edgy without totally freaking everyone out and making them lose their mind? In the small town that I lived in Texas, it wouldn't be a debate. Nobody would even try to teach kindergarten with a tattoo tongue because there's just this sense, just like you have in your family, think in your house, there's just kind of a way you do things and you don't have to talk about it because it's just your family culture. Well, a lot of small towns and small, cohesive communities have this. So every human used to live in something like this. Now that the world is a bigger place, now that we have the internet, now there's more immigration and people from different places going into different countries, we have lost that. And so rather than walking around your city feeling like, yeah, everyone here is pretty much family, you're like, I don't know any of these people. They're all strangers. It's like the difference between, if you lived in New York City versus the small Texas town that I came from. Well, in New York, everyone knows in the big cities, there's more of an exchange of ideas. You see people being more avant-garde, pushing limits to more of an extreme because everyone is strangers to each other. So everyone has their own personal ideas about what social mores are. Have I lost everyone?
No.
Okay. This is why Shady's here. She can keep me in line. Now, I don't actually say this as a bad thing because another thing that tends to come with really cohesive villages and communities where it feels like one big family is you tend to have xenophobia, tend to have racism, things like that. I mean, think about like some of the Irish immigrant communities. Like they would just find reasons to hate people who were not them. Like they were racist against Italians. They were racist against other white people because they were so in their little bubble of having a cohesive community. It's like everyone that is not born in Ireland and have our exact views, like they're weird and let's get them out of here. They're bizarre. Yeah, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That I think it's actually generally it's a pretty good thing that we all feel like we are living around strangers. Therefore, we're exposed to a wider variety of ideas. Like, I don't know, can you tattoo your tongue and make the whites of your eyes black and still teach kindergarten? In my Texas town, that would have just been a categorical no.
No, yeah.
I mean, no one would have even talked about it.
Put him in a morph suit, one of those full body face morph suits. Have you ever seen those?
What?
You've never seen those?
Do you know what a morph suit is?
So it's just like skin tight.
Is this a sex thing too? Or?
Nope, not. They even have a green screen like ones, and you can like make it all weird.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that wouldn't be weird to show up to your kid. You could do that for a Zoom call though.
Yeah.
If you get a green screen morph suit.
He's like, I'll cover all of them.
I'm
I'll wear
Thanos
a whole
today.
morph suit.
Yeah, that's, Shady, no bad ideas in brainstorming. That's what I say. What was that? Small towns are racist. Where was I?
Oh, sorry.
No. Look, the point is we're going to be seeing more of this as we encounter all sorts of different people with different views, thanks to people moving around more often, thanks to the internet. And you will face at some point someone saying, you know who I think should teach your kids kindergarten is a Pentecostal member of Antifa who will speak in tongues to your children all the time and handle snakes in class. And you'll have to be like, yeah, see, well, where I'm from, that's not who we look for in kindergarten teachers. But because you're surrounded by such a diversity of opinions, you actually have to defend this of why that might not be a good idea. So it's frustrating as a parent. We are having all sorts of, we're seeing a real clash of cultures of people with different ideas and different values, especially when it comes to raising our kids. And I think that it can be frustrating, and it can almost feel a little scary, like, well, they're okay. So there are people who feel like covering your entire body in tattoos, and including your tongue, and having black eyes is like fine and something that kindergartners can be exposed to. It can feel scary. But I think the upside is remembering there are a lot of advantages to living in a world where we're all exposed to all sorts of different people and ideas. Look at me, Shady. I'm ending on a kumbaya note, and I had my let's all just respect the system take.
There you go.
No one saw this
Hakuna
podcast coming,
Matata,
did they?
whatever that means.
Right. So, can you sing that? You're a singer.
Hakuna Matata. I'm not ready. I can't. No, I need to work on that first.
You know what we could do? We could do it spoken word.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
What a wonderful phrase.
What a wonderful phrase.
It means no worries.
No worries.
For the rest
See,
of your
I don't know
days.
the
rest of your days.
All right. I think that's an excellent note to end on. You can get bonus episodes of this podcast, and I'm very, very active in my Patreon community. I'm into it. I have to say, this Patreon has been a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I'm super into this community, and every other week I do bonus episodes just between us. I'm probably going to move that to weekly. That's not set yet, but I probably will. That is patreon.com/thisisjen. And of course, you need to follow me on Instagram. Is there anything else? I'm looking at my notes here. Is there anything else I needed to tell you? Patreon.com/thisisjen. Follow me on Instagram. Oh, leave a comment. Leave a comment so that YouTube will stop thinking I am a Russian bot. Thank you very much, and I will be back soon with another fine episode of This Is Jen.